friends to publicly declare that they want their relationship to become permanent for life. They come as well to ask God for their blessing for their marriage. And I have been honored to get to know Cindy and John over the past year or so in marriage prep and seeing them after Mass. They told me the story of how they met at the bus stop when they were both 6 years old, and how they became fast childhood friends. They attended different middle and high schools. Cindy went to Catholic school, John to public school, and they dated different people, but they always remained friends and secretly admired each other for a long time. They told me the story of how they fell in love that July 4th when they were at the same picnic and party, but this time they were both without a date. So they decided to drive to Philly to see the fireworks, which lit up the sky, but the fireworks were also in their eyes and in their hearts. The sparks that started on that day have developed into a much deeper love that fills this church with light and hope and love. So today, we celebrate love in many different ways. We hear in the scripture readings that Cindy and John chose for their wedding about the love between a man and a woman, the love of family and friends, and the love of God for us all. First, we hear about the love between a man and a woman in today's first reading in Genesis. After the earth, the sky, the water, the plants and animals, God makes his crowning jewel, human life, man and woman. He gives them also a gift as a married couple, the ability to co-create life with him. So God has blessed the union of couples from the start. So now we join in asking our loving God to bless this couple, not only today, but throughout the whole of their married lives. In the second reading, we hear about the love of family and friends. St. Paul explains what love can mean in practical terms. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not jealous, boastful, arrogant, or rude. Paul is giving us a model of love, a love that looks like Christ. This is actually a very popular reading at weddings, but did you know that St. Paul wasn't talking about married love here? He was writing to the Corinthians about how to live together as community, as family and friends. This love of community is what Paul asks of the Corinthians, and really, it's what Christ asks of all of us. If we truly live this way, with this couple and with one another, we will give this bride and groom gifts more valuable than any on their registry. These gifts of love and hope won't tarnish or wear, and it is my prayer that everyone here will give these gifts a private place in your home. And it is also my prayer that these are gifts that will be returned again and again. If you do that, that spark will spread, and the light will grow, and the story will go on. Finally, the gospel today describes the love of God for all of us, and how all of us should love. Here Jesus reduces the hundreds of laws in the Old Testament, including the 10 Commandments, into just 2. Love God and love your neighbor. From our baptism, we are all called to give our entire heart, mind, and soul into loving God, and then to seek to love others. This connects our sacrament of baptism to this sacrament of marriage. We first love God totally, then we can love our spouse totally. By keeping just these 2 commandments, a marriage will last. By keeping and loving God in your marriage, you will strengthen it and make it possible to handle any struggle. Having God in a marriage is essential. It is only by loving God that a couple is able to love each other in the perfect way in which God has intended. This reading expresses the connection we believe exists between God's love for us and the inspiration and grounding God gives as we love one another. So what is the mission of marriage? In one respect, today it is Cindy's day and it is John's day. But in another respect, it's really not. And that's because marriage, as well as holy orders, are sacraments of service, not to ourselves. Marriage exists for the salvation of others. Husbands and wives must first care for each other in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, sharing chores, listening to each other, etc. They must pray for and with each other, set a good example, correct one another with gentleness and humility, encourage each other to strive farther in overcoming selfishness. Ultimately, the most important thing you will do for one another, Cindy and John, is to care for each other's souls. It is your mission to help your spouse get to heaven. There is another mission in living your life in love for others, and that is for procreation and the education of children, not just making babies, but forming saints. These tasks may seem intimidating, but God calls you to this great mission because He has confidence in you. He has promised to give you the graces you need to live your vocation to the fullest. So today in the Scriptures, and today in this church, we see and celebrate the love between a man and a woman, the love of family and friends, and the love that God has for us all. So let us now continue our celebration.